A massive shout out to the Genin tier member of this channel. Thank you Aliyah Ra, your support means a lot. There's a rumor going around. If you like this video and subscribe you will learn how to create art through explosions. If you become a member you will master timeless art through puppets. Hi guys, this is the next part of What If Naruto Mastered Every Element. I hope you enjoy. Naruto rushed Kabuto and sent a punch to the older shinobi's stomach, but Kabuto moved to the side and activated his chakra scalpels. Naruto rolled away before the chakra scalpels could sever his muscles. Naruto then drew a kunai and then infused wind chakra into it, making it sharper. Naruto then slashed his kunai, which collided with Kabuto's hand of cutting chakra. The wind and healing chakras collided, creating a small explosion, sending the two ninja flying away from each other. With Jiraiya, Orochimaru had used Kuchio's no jutsu and summoned 3 large snakes like the ones used for the war. Jiraiya then made some hand signs and slammed his palm on the floor. Doden. Yomi Numa, Earth style. Swamp of the underworld, he yelled. Then the earth beneath the giant snakes turned moist and unstable as it became a swamp. 2 of the giant reptiles fell into the dark abyss of the swamp, but one of them was smart enough to dodge and went to strike Jiraiya. Jiraiya gritted his teeth as he avoided the snake's blows. Jiraiya then spotted the Hubby Sanin on the gargantuan snake's head, and then after avoiding one of the snake's blows, the reptile's head had crashed into the earth. Jiraiya used this to his advantage and then jumped on the snake's head and ran up to Orochimaru. Orochimaru formed some hand signs and his neck then elongated, his fangs bared to bite Jiraiya's flesh. Jiraiya stopped his movements and formed some hand signs. Ninpu. Nido Jizu, ninja art, needle hair, he yelled. Jiraiya's hair then surrounded his body and became sharper, like spikes. Orochimaru glared before he spotted an opening and then clamped his jaws around Jiraiya's shoulder and using amazing strength heaved Jiraiya. Jiraiya used chakra to slow his movement as he skidded along the snake's slimy body. Kukuku, surrender Jiraiya, you know you're going to lose. I am the ultimate ninja, for I know nearly every jutsu created, and once I get Sasuke-kun's body as my own I will achieve the Sharingan and obtain every jutsu created, Orochimaru said. Jiraiya shook his head. That is not what a shinobi is, Orochimaru Tem, Jiraiya said. Orochimaru looked at Jiraiya with a puzzled look. Oh really? A ninja is a being who can perform all ninjutsu, hence the nin in ninja, Orochimaru said. No, a ninja is somebody who has the guts to take on any challenge and defend themselves and those precious to them with all their strength. That is what a ninja is. Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto is a living example of a ninja, Jiraiya said. Orochimaru's eyes widened as he looked at Naruto fighting Kabuto. That Kyuubi Gaki, he's Minato's son, Orochimaru said. Jiraiya nodded and then got into a fighting stance. Looks like I'll have to rethink my host body options now, Orochimaru chuckled. Jiraiya then rushed the former Hubby Sanin. Over my dead body, you would get Naruto, Jiraiya said, and then the two Sanin went into a flurry of kick and punches. With Naruto and Kabuto, Naruto was having a hard time fighting Kabuto because he had to worry about not getting hit by those chakra scalpels. Kuso, I need to kill this Tem, but I need a good shot. Then he got an idea. Kabuto noticed Naruto halt in movement and struck Naruto in the arms. Naruto then turned into a plume of smoke, indicating it was a Kagebunshin. Kabuto looked around, but couldn't find Naruto. Kabuto grinned and then raced towards Tsunade. Shizune noticed this and then threw a few poison Senbon. Kabuto then lowered his Odo Hitai 8, deflecting the poisonous projectiles. Ha, that was pathetic, Kabuto said with a laugh and then knocked out Shizune. He then walked over to Tsunade and raised his chakra scalpel. Time to die Sanin, Kabuto said. Tsunade looked up, still shaken up by the blood on her hands. Kabuto then aimed a chakra scalpel aimed at her heart, but was hit by an unexpected kick to the stomach. Kabuto was sent flying. Tsunade looked in front of her and saw Naruto standing in front of her. You alright, Oba-chan? He asked. Tsunade glared. You baka, don't do this, you'll get killed, Tsunade yelled. Naruto turned and grinned. Hey, I still need to win that bet, don't I? Now let me show you my newest jutsus, he said. Naruto then took out a scroll from his weapons pouch. He bit his thumb and the scroll opened, revealing Raiwarashi. Naruto picked up the 4-featuring blade and clutched at his hands. Kabuto got up and stared at the blade. Seems you got a new toy, Naruto, Kabuto said. Naruto didn't respond and simply shunshined in front of Kabuto and slashed downwards at the crook of Kabuto's neck. Kabuto barely managed to dodge, his shirt getting slightly cut by the blow, but then he felt a powerful wind followed as the sword slashed, sending Kabuto skidding on the ground and receiving cuts all over his body. Raiwarashi has a power to control the elements of water, lightning and wind, allowing me to channel these chakras into the blade, and based on the chakra I get different results. That was wind, now for water, Naruto said. He then slashed horizontally, and a row of blades, made entirely of water, flew towards the downed Kabuto, hitting him in the chest. Kabuto grunted in pain, but then laughed as he removed the water blades. Naruto's eyes widened when he saw that Kabuto's wounds were healing rapidly before his eyes. "What are you?" Naruto asked. Kabuto shifted his glasses. "It's my Kekai Genkai, it allows to heal from almost any injury no matter how serious," Kabuto explained. Naruto nodded before channeling lightning chakra into his sword. Naruto then plunged his sword into the ground, and the lightning from the sword traveled along the ground, splitting it, and then it moved towards Kabuto, but veered away from him at the last second. "Looks like you missed," Kabuto said. "No, I didn't," Naruto said as he pointed his hand at Orochimaru's little pet. The snake Jiraiya and Orochimaru was split in two and then died as it puffed away. Kabuto, Jiraiya, Tsunade and everyone else were surprised at what just happened. Using their surprise to his advantage, Naruto channeled his fire, earth and water chakras. Naruto then made hand signs. "Oi, Tsunade Oba-chan, watch this," Naruto said. Tsunade looked at Naruto as gasped at what she saw. Pure metal surrounded Naruto's hands, the metal then formed large claws where his fingers were. "This is my newest jutsu style, Kaiten, Sum no Kitsune, metal style, Fox Claw," Naruto said, and then raced forward, slashing Kabuto multiple times across his chest. Blood spilled in large amounts as Kabuto screamed in pain. The claws disappeared, and then Naruto formed more hand signs and then picked up Raiwarashi. "Kaiten, Senenhanto no Shi, metal style, 1000 swords of death," Naruto yelled. Then the silver metal covered his sword, and then the metal then split many times until there were 1000 silver metallic blades hovering around Naruto. Naruto then pointed at Kabuto, and the swords then flew at Kabuto. Kabuto had nearly fully healed from the Sum no Kitsune, but then was forced to dodge the lightning-fast blades. However, the speed and sheer numbers of the 1000 swords were too much for him, and he got cut and or impaled in some places. The swords then disappeared after they all flew at Kabuto. Naruto then formed more hand signs and clapped his hands together. "Kaiten, Kaneshibari no Jutsu, metal style, metal restraints jutsu," Naruto yelled. Then large black metal chains came out from underneath the ground and bound Kabuto's damaged form, tying his arms and legs. Kabuto struggled against the chains, but couldn't get free. "Damn you, Naruto, you bitch, let me go now so I can fucking pummel you to fucking death," Kabuto cried. Naruto then walked towards Kabuto and then held out his hand. Chakra and wind then swirled into his palm, and the orb of destruction known as the Rasengan was shown in all its glory. Kabuto's eyes widened. "You learned the Rasengan?" Kabuto asked. Naruto didn't answer as he broke into a run, the Rasengan held out behind him. Naruto then reached a few inches between he and Kabuto. Naruto then thrust the Rasengan forward into Kabuto's stomach, making him cough up blood. The metal chains broke and Kabuto was sent spiraling into a boulder with terrific force. "Rasengan," Naruto said, and then walked away, but then fell to the ground, exhausted. Tsunade rushed over to him and checked his vitals. "Oh, thanked Kami-sama, you're alive and one heck of a kid. To think you made your own jutsu style, Kaiten. Well, Naruto, I guess you win," Tsunade said, and then removed her necklace and placed it around Naruto's neck. Orochimaru was astonished. A new jutsu style was made by this Gaki. Orochimaru grinned and then rushed at Naruto and opened his mouth, the Kusanagi aimed at him. Jiraiya was too slow to stop him and watched as the snake sped towards Tsunade and his student. "You're no good to Akutsuki dead Gaki," Orochimaru screamed maniacally. The Kusanagi was thrust, and blood flew, but not from the intended victim. Tsunade was in between Naruto and Orochimaru. The Kusanagi was through her chest and she was bleeding heavily. "What? Why are you saving the boy?" Orochimaru said. Tsunade looked up with anger evident in her stare. "Because I am the Godime Hokage of Konoha, and I am to protect all those a part of my village from people like you," Tsunade said. She then removed the Kusanagi from her body and then kicked Orochimaru in the balls. The hubby Sanin fell to the ground with tears in his eyes. Tsunade then picked him up by his collar and kneed him in the stomach and then threw him up and punched Orochimaru in the face, sending flying by Kabuto's body. Jiraiya smiled as he saw Orochimaru fly. Tsunade then tried to heal herself with standard healing jutsu, but it didn't work, so she released the diamond seal on her forehead. Sozo Seisei, meiotic regeneration, she said, and then the diamond glowed, turning into black markings, and the wound on her chest healed in a number of seconds. Then the two Sanin heard the sound of laughing. Kukukukuku, you think you can beat me, Kabuto now, Orochimaru said as he used his long tongue to lift his arm sleeve to reveal a snake tattoo. Naruto stirred and his eyes widened and saw Kabuto moving. How is he still alive? Naruto whispered as he struggled to get up. Kabuto then slowly took out a kunai and slashed Orochimaru's arm tattoo. Tsunade and Jiraiya and Naruto also formed hand signs. Kuchihyose no jutsu, summoning jutsu, they four yelled. Then a giant plume of smoke appeared, and then when the smoke cleared there stood a giant purple and black snake, a giant toad with a large dodge and wearing a robe, a giant white and blue slug and a large white eight-tailed kitsune. The slug, toad and snake turned at the fox, puzzled. Who are you? Gamabunta asked the fox. I am Saiyan, mate to Kyuubi no Yoko in Naruto's summon, Saiyan replied. The three summons, Orochimaru and Tsunade gasped. I see, so Kyuubi has given you the ability to summon his kin. You must be very special, Katsuyu, the slug, said. Manda looked at the three summons, hit him against three, he then looked at Orochimaru. Orochimaru, how dare you summon me to this battle? I am significantly outmatched 3-1. You would obviously lose, so I'm outta here, Manda said and then poofed away. Orochimaru then landed on the ground and then melted into it, taking the injured, almost dead, Kabuto with him. We will see each other again soon, Jiraiya-kun, Tsunade-chan, and especially you, Naruto-kun, Orochimaru said, his eyes still peeking above the ground. Saiyan growled and stomped her paw where the snake's head was, but it was too late, for the hubby Sanin has already left. The three summons then placed their summoners on the ground before leaving in a poof of smoke. Well, guess we'd better head back to Konoha, Naruto said with a sheepish grin. The two Sanin chuckled. Tsunade then walked over and picked up Shizune and the four of them left. They all decided to rest for today before leaving the next morning. Before they left the town, Tsunade saw a cut little pig in a shop window and instantly bought the cute little snorter, naming her Tauntaun. Then they set off. One day later, Sogaki, how did you make that Kainten jutsu? Jiraiya asked. Tsunade nodded, wanting to know also. Shizune poked her head in, also wanting to know after being updated on what happened. Well, I wanted to make something that nobody would copy, and even if Itachi could copy my hand signs and the jutsu, he doesn't have the chakra natures to do it, so it's almost completely foolproof. As to how I made it, I just fused fire, earth and water chakras. The fire and earth would combine to form the iron ore from the earth, followed by the water which would cool the heated iron. Then I can use Kyuubi 2 Sans chakra to turn the iron ore into the metal alloy, Naruto explained. Jiraiya, Tsunade and Shizune were shocked. This Gaki who looked so dumb said something incredibly smart. Well, that's great, Gaki. Anyways, good job on that Rasengan. Kabuto will take a while to heal all those injuries you gave him in the fight. Jiraiya complimented. Yeah, also nice trick with the sword, Raiwarashi, that name sounds familiar, Tsunade said as she looked up trying to remember. It was my mother's, Uzumaki Kushina, Naruto said with a downcast look. Tsunade snapped her fingers. Oh right, Kushina, my favorite genin student, I had made her my apprentice before Shizune, Tsunade said. Naruto's eyes widened. You taught Okawa-san, Naruto said with disbelief. Yeah, why do you make sound hard to believe? Tsunade asked. Naruto shrugged. Because you look like somebody who wouldn't have the patience to take on an apprentice size, you be all old and hag-like, Naruto said. Tsunade's vein bulged in her head when she heard the insults to her age. She then grabbed the other blonde by his collar. Shut up about my age, I may be in my 50s, but I have the power and body, she said with a smirk, of when I was in my prime, Tsunade said. Naruto laughed before walking ahead of them. Tsunade cocked her head to the side in confusion. What's with the laughing? I don't get, come back here, Naruto, Tsunade said as she chased after the young Namikaze. Jiraiya shook his head as he and Shizune held back, watching the slug Sanin chase after the Kyuubi Jinchuriki like a mother with her son. I see those two get along well, Jiraiya said. Shizune nodded in agreement. I have never seen Tsunade-sama this happy, it's almost like she has Naoki back, she said. At the Konoha gates, Hyuga Hinata watched the main gated intently like every other afternoon, waiting for our blonde enigma to return. Then Hinata's eyes widened when she heard some voices that sounded oddly like yelling. Byakugan, Hinata said as the veins around her eyes became more powerful, allowing her enhanced vision. She looked and saw a few 100 feet away, 4 figures, 2 were male and the other 2 were female. She then recognized the shorter of the 2 males to be her one and only Naruto-kun. Hinata then deactivated her Byakugan and waited. 20 minutes later, the gates opened to reveal Tsunade, Jiraiya, Shizune and Naruto. Hinata instantly sped towards them. Naruto turned and was sent to the ground by a gray and black blur. He looked and saw Hinata hugging him on the ground. Naruto got up and helped Hinata up. Hey Hinata-chan, I'm guessing you missed me while I was gone, Naruto said. Hinata didn't answer in words, but with a long, deep kiss on the lips, with some tongue. Naruto's eyes shot open and Hinata then released the kiss and smiled. Okay, I know you really missed me, Naruto said with his foxy grin. Jiraiya then slapped Naruto on the back. Wow, way to go Gaki, you have girlfriend and a Hyuga no less, I now have some new inspiration for my new issue of Ika Ika Paradise, he said with a perverted giggle, but was then knocked to the ground by Tsunade. Gomen, the baka is always teasing the Gaki, Tsunade said as she ruffled Naruto's hair, but now it's my turn to tease him, Tsunade added. Naruto groaned. Not you too Oba-chan, Naruto whined and was then hit in the head. Stop calling me that, it's Hokage-sama from now on, the slug Sanin said. Naruto nursed his damaged head and glared at the older woman. Dear Kami-sama, you're just like Ero Sanin, always hitting me for giving you a nickname, how would you feel if I hit you for calling me Gaki all the time, Naruto said. Tsunade chuckled before helping Jiraiya to his feet. Hinata was shocked. She was standing in front of 2 of the most powerful shinobi on the entire elemental continent and Naruto was acting like they were his family. Hinata then shrugged. He wouldn't be the most surprising shinobi of Konoha if he showed respect. Come on Hinata-chan, let's go have some dinner at Ikiraku's, I'm starving, Naruto exclaimed and then grabbed Hinata's arm as they went to Ikiraku's. Tsunade laughed as she watched the couple run off. Ah young love, she said with a sigh. Jiraiya nodded. Ain't that the truth, Jiraiya said. Tsunade then rubbed her palms together. Well, time to go and look at that office since I'm Hokage now, Tsunade said. Shizune and Jiraiya then accompanied the new Godime to the Hokage tower. Tsunade then stepped into the office looking around and smiled, feeling nostalgic. Wow, brings back a lot of memories, doesn't it Jiraiya? Tsunade asked her teammate. Yeah, having sensei belittle us when we complained about that damn cat, Jiraiya said with a smile. Shizune chuckled and then decided it was time for her to leave those 2 alone. She took Tauntaun and left the room. Tsunade then sat in the chair and looked at the desk and saw a significantly lowered amount of paperwork. You'd think after a war there would be mountains of it. Where's the paperwork? She asked in confusion. You mean you wanted to do mountains of paperwork? Jiraiya questioned with a smirk. No, but it's only been a month after the war and there should be at least a mountain of it, Tsunade replied. She then heard a knock on the door. Come in, she said. The door opened to reveal Hyuga Hiyashi. Hey, it's the guy with a stick up his ass, Tsunade said. Hiyashi ignored it and then cleared his throat. Hello Tsunade-sama, I just came to, Hiyashi started before Tsunade interrupted. That's Hokage-sama to you Mr. Stick, the Godime said with a smirk. Hiyashi knew he deserved those insults so he just let them slide. Hokage-sama, I have to come to inform you that I and some of the other clan heads have done most of the paperwork, also we all wish you a welcome back and to thank you for returning to Konoha, Hiyashi said. Tsunade nodded. Arigato, she said. Also, Hiyashi added, I was to tell you that my daughter, Hinata is betrothed to Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto, so I just wanted to tell you that. Good day Hokage-sama, Hiyashi said and then left. Tsunade was shocked and Jiraiya smirked. Oh my god, the Gaki's getting married, I have to tell him, Tsunade said as she frantically looked for the door that was right in front of her face. She then spotted it and went, but Jiraiya stopped her. Let me tell him, after all I am his godfather, Jiraiya said. Family privileges, he said when Tsunade glared at him. You gave to go see the council anyways to get your seat as Hokage approved, he added. Tsunade sighed and then left to go to the council room to talk with those shriveled up assholes. Jiraiya giggled a bit before shunshining to Ichiraku. Ichiraku ramen oi, Tuki Oji-san, another bowl over here. Naruto yelled as he finished his fourth bowl. Hinata was on her second since she was actually using her manners and not eating at an inhuman pace. Naruto then proceeded to tell her about Kyuubi, feeling it was time, but before he could Jiraiya appeared. Oi Gaki, Jiraiya said taking a seat next to Hinata, smiling. Naruto looked at the Gama Sanin with a puzzled look. Naruto swallowed his ramen and then turned to Jiraiya. What are you doing here? Naruto asked. Jiraiya smiled and then pointed at Hinata and then Naruto. Naruto, you're gonna get. Jiraiya was smiling with happiness. What? What I'm gonna get what? Naruto asked. You, my young Namikaze, are betrothed to this pretty little Hyuga here, Jiraiya said. Naruto nearly choked while Hinata was turning into a tomato. What, I'm marrying her? Not that I don't want, because I will in the future, but they've already decided it. Naruto yelled. Hinata had fainted when Naruto has said that he would marry her and looked like a sleeping red blob with clothes. Jiraiya nodded and then threw Naruto a key and a piece of paper. Naruto caught them and looked at the two things. What are these for? Naruto asked. Jiraiya smiled. The key and the directions to your father's estate. You can bring your fiancé if you too, he teased. Naruto then picked Hinata up bridal style and walked, then since he used Kagebunshin so much was able to do it without hand signs to give the directions. Jiraiya and Naruto followed the Kagebunshin to a cave hidden behind the Hokage tower that had a sign above it saying, only people that I have chosen are allowed, others will be vaporized by my seals 3 Minato. Naruto looked at Jiraiya, who just shrugged. They followed the Kagebunshin into the cave and then a few seconds later they emerged out of it to reveal a huge mansion, bigger than the Hyuga estate. Naruto gasped and nearly dropped Hinata. Hinata had just woken up and saw Naruto gaping at something as she set herself down. She turned and also gaped. Holy shit, Hinata said as she saw the 5-story mansion. Naruto then walked and took the key and tried to open the door, but it wouldn't budge. He then saw seals on the door. Naruto then decided to test this theory. He then bit his finger to make it bleed. The blood dropped on the key and then put in the keyhole. The seals on the door glowed and the door opened. Naruto entered followed by Hinata and Jiraiya. He looked on the first floor. There was a normal housing area, with a family room, a huge kitchen, and 2 bathrooms. The second story had 3 bathrooms and a huge study filled to the brim with scrolls on ceiling and one hidden in a chest that when Naruto opened it gasped. The scroll seemed to glow as Naruto held it. That's the scroll with the Hiraishin no Jutsu, Flying Thunder God Jutsu in it, the jutsu that made your father the Yellow Flash, Jiraiya said. As for the other, they're mostly sealing and other jutsus. Minato told me some of them hold jutsus from your mother's side, Jiraiya said. Naruto squealed with joy as he ran up to the 3rd story. Hinata quickly chased after him. Since she would be marrying Naruto, she needed to get used to this gigantic dwelling. The 4th story was a large training room with all sorts of equipment such as training dummies, a large area to practice sealing and a large variety of weaponry. The 5th and final floor was a room with a single ladder. Naruto, Jiraiya and Hinata all climbed it to find a small attic door. Naruto opened the door and found himself on the roof of the house that overlooked the village. Hinata and Jiraiya had come onto the roof a few seconds later and had instantly had their breath taken away. The sun was setting and the village was looking really spectacular from the view. Hinata walked next to Naruto and held his hand as they looked at the village. Jiraiya teared up at the sight and then decided they needed to be alone. Hinata rested her head on Naruto's shoulder as they sat down to watch the sun. Naruto then walked Hinata home when he thought it was getting late and then kissed her goodbye. See you later, Hinata Heim, Naruto said. Hinata blushed at the new suffix added to her name. Be ye, Naruto-kun, she said, and then the gate closed as soon as she entered the gates. The next day I think I'm using this next day thing a bit too much, wouldn't you say? Naruto was walking down the road, no apparent reason, just to look around and do nothing. Then he heard footsteps. Naruto turned and his eyes widened when the wind got knocked out of him as a pink-haired thing hit his stomach. Naruto ni-san, Sakura cried as she hugged the boy on the ground. Naruto shook his head, major deja vu. He and Sakura then got up. Thank goodness you're back, I have been having some troubles, Sakura said with a downcast look. Naruto looked at his Ne-chan. What happened? He asked her softly. Sakura looked up with tears in her eyes. It's Sasuke-kun, he's not himself, he's acting like was back in the academy all moody and like he doesn't care about things other than power anymore. Do you think the curse seal is affecting him? Sakura said. Naruto took Sakura's arm and looked her straight in the eye. Where is he? He asked. Sakura wiped her eyes. He had exhausted himself yesterday, so he's in the hospital, she said. Naruto and Sakura then raced to the hospital. At the hospital, Sakura and Naruto walked into the hospital and Sakura directed him to Sasuke's room. She opened the door to find Sasuke awake, looking out the window. Sasuke turned his head to see Sakura and, he gritted his teeth, Naruto. Oi, Sakura, Naruto, Sasuke said. Naruto looked at Sasuke oddly, he always used to call him Naruto ni, and Sakura would be Sakura-chan, but there was something that throwing him off about Sasuke. Sasuke then got up and stretched. Sakura walked up to him and tried to get him to lie down more. You need your rest, Sasuke-kun, she urged. Sasuke moved her aside and then walked up to Naruto. Naruto, I want you and I to fight, he said. Naruto was taken back. What? Why? Naruto questioned. Sasuke became angered. Shut the hell up, Dobi. Didn't you want to fight me? Then let's go to the roof and fight, Sasuke said as his chakra spiked, the Sharingan replaced his onyx eyes. Just so you know, Kakashi has replaced the protection seal with another so this way his curse seal won't appear in the hospital fight. Naruto swallowed. Sasuke's killer intent was particularly strong, he really wanted to fight this badly. Naruto sighed. Alright, we'll go on the roof, Naruto said. Sakura gasped. How could Naruto and Sasuke, two people who saw each other as brothers, want to fight this badly? Sakura then followed the two boys to the roof. Team 7 then walked out the door leading to the roof. Naruto and Sasuke stood across from each other whilst Sakura just stayed by the door. Naruto then noticed Sasuke didn't have his Hitai 8 on. Sasuke, put on your Hitai 8. I'll wait, Naruto said. Sasuke gritted his teeth. Why should I? He growled. Naruto was shocked, because it signifies that two Konoha shinobi are fighting as equals, he replied. Sasuke chuckled. We are not equals, Sasuke shouted, his Sharingan blazing. What are you talking about? I've always been as good as you. Naruto shouted back. Then prove it. If you can get a scratch on my forehead, I'll consider you my equal, Sasuke said, jabbing his thumb at his forehead. Naruto growled, his eyes flashing red for a second. The two then rushed each other. Sasuke then attacked, sending a swift punch to the gut, but Naruto used his knee to block it. Naruto then retaliated with a punch to Sasuke's face, hitting Sasuke in the forehead. Sasuke rubbed his forehead in pain. There, now I'm your equal, he said. Sasuke gritted his teeth. The Dobi managed to hit him, but it was only luck. Sasuke then rushed at god-fast speeds and hit Naruto with a barrage of punches and kicks. Naruto groaned in pain and went flying back. Naruto then got up and blocked a punch to his face. He then did a sweep kick, tripping Sasuke, and then pinned his shirt and pants to the concrete with a few kunai. Damn it, Sasuke, what's wrong with you? Why are you so aggressive? Naruto asked. Sasuke glared. Because I want to know who is stronger between the two of us, Sasuke said, and then yanked the kunai and freed himself. Sasuke then delivered a fast kick to Naruto's stomach. Naruto quickly recovered and formed his favorite cross-shaped sign. Kagebunshin no jutsu, Naruto yelled. 50 Kagebunshins then puffed into existence. Sasuke, with his Sharingan, was able to avoid them and counter-strike each of their attacks, but Naruto had managed to make 5 Kagebunshins get under his guard. Uzumaki, the clones yelled as they kicked him up. Sasuke had used his arms to block his body from the brunt force of the blows. Then a 5th Kagebunshin went to deliver the final blow, but Sasuke turned and caught the kick and threw it downwards. Sasuke then formed hand signs and took a deep breath. Kaden. Gukakyu no jutsu, he yelled, and a huge fireball blew out of his mouth, destroying Kagebunshins left and right. The fire then began to swirl around Naruto, and there in his right hand the Rasengan floated centimeters above it in all its glory. What is that jutsu? Sasuke thought, and then made the hand signs and gripped his right wrist with his left arm as the Chidori flared to life. Sasuke. Naruto. The two genins then thrust their attacks forward, but Sakura had enough of the fighting and ran in between then to try and stop them, but the boys couldn't stop moving and were about to hit Sakura. Then as they were about to hit, a wrist then appeared and grabbed the two boys' wrists and threw them into the water tanks. Kakashi stood there panting. "Looks like I made it just in time," he said. Sakura gasped. "Kakashi-sensei," she exclaimed. Sasuke and Naruto ripped their hands out of the tanks. Naruto had made a tiny hole, while Sasuke had made a much bigger one, the water flowing rapidly from it. Sasuke then jumped over the iron fence, but then his smirk disappeared, turning into surprise. The entire back part of Naruto's tank had been completely blown out. Sasuke gritted his teeth and then ran off. Sasuke was jumping through the trees when some iron wire wrapped around his body and pinned him to tree. Kakashi then landed in front of the Avenger. "Sasuke, we need to talk," Kakashi stated. Sasuke remained silent. "Sasuke, do you know why I trusted you with that Chidori technique?" he asked. Sasuke still didn't speak. Kakashi sighed. "The reason was because I believed you would use to help protect those close to you, not on a friend, especially not your best friend, like you are with Naruto," Kakashi said. "Well, you don't know my pain. How would you feel if I killed all your precious people?" he said. Kakashi smiled a sad smile beneath his mask. "All the people that held precious, they're all dead," Kakashi said. Sasuke's eyes widened and his gaze looked down at the ground below. Kakashi then loosened the wire as Sasuke fell limply onto a tree branch. Kakashi looked down at Sasuke. "I hope my talk has helped you," he said, and then poofed away. Sasuke looked at the ground and glared. He needed power. He needed to control the power of Curse Seal. He would need to go to Orochimaru, but he didn't want to leave his home. Sasuke then heard a rustling. 4 people then jumped down: a red-haired woman, a gray-haired man, a black-haired, tan man with 6 arms, and a fat guy with orange hair. "So this is Uchiha Sasuke. The fucking Gaki doesn't look like much. Why would Orochimaru-sama want someone that looks like a fucking duck's ass? Why don't we beat the shit out of him and see why?" "Tayuya," the gray-haired one said. "Good idea, Sakin," the 6-armed one said. "Demo, Kimimaro," Orochimaru-sama said. "Not to harm him," the fat one said. Tayuya scoffed. "Shut your fucking damn mouth. Jirobo, you fat ass, now let's just beat the shit out him and call it a day," Tayuya said. Jirobo remained silent. "Who are you people?" Sasuke asked. The 4 looked down at the young Uchiha. "Tayuya of the North Gate," the redhead said. "Sakin of the East Gate," the gray-haired one said. "Kimimaro of the West Gate," the 6-armed one said. "Jirobo of the South Gate," the fat one said. "We are Orochimaru-sama's most trusted fighters, known as the Oto-yan, Sound 4, he added. Sasuke then got up and into the Uchiha fighting stance, his Sharingan active. "Looks like the little Gaki wants to fight," Sakin said. Tayuya jumped at Sasuke, but Sasuke then grabbed her hair and yanked her down, face planting her into the tree branch. Kimimaro then went to punch him, but Sasuke then ducked underneath him and kicked his stomach and then slammed him into Tayuya, who then slammed into the tree trunk. Sakin and Jirobo went in for a double punch, but Sasuke knocked their fists downwards, kicking Jirobo into the growing pile of Oto nins. Sakin then aimed a kick at Sasuke, but Sasuke avoided it. Sasuke then sent a left hook at Sakin's face. The Oto nin dodged, but didn't see the kick aimed for his chin. Sasuke did the kick up and then did Kagebunshin, Shadow of the Dancing Leaf, and then performed the Shishirendan, Lion's Barrage, slamming Sakin into the rest of the group. Sasuke jumped away and panted a bit. The pile of Oto nins then turned into a pile of logs, signifying the use of Kawarimi no Jutsu. Sasuke then looked to the left when he heard laughing. There stood the Sound 4. Sasuke gritted his teeth in annoyance. Sakin stopped laughing and then began to speak. "You are to come with us to Orochimaru-sama. He says he can give the power to defeat your Aniki older brother," Sakin said. Sasuke's eyes widened, but then quickly dodged a punch from Tayuya. Jirobo and Kimimaro then went in with a combo, which Sasuke had managed to protect himself from by using Kawarimi. Sasuke kept dodging the onslaught of blows as though he could read their moves before they made them. Sasuke then jumped away and felt a searing pain behind his Sharingan eyes and began to scream, clutching his head. The Sound 4 stared at the Uchiha until he stopped screaming. Sasuke looked up panting. The Sound 4 gasped. 6 Tomo stared at them, 3 in each eye. Sasuke then looked at the 4 with his now mature Sharingan and smiled. "Arigato for helping me unlock my Sharingan's mature form, but I think I won't go," Sasuke said. Sakin then appeared behind Sasuke with unreal speed. The black markings from use of his curse mark were spread across his face. Sasuke gasped. That's right, we have one too, Sasuke said and then pinned Sasuke to the ground. Sasuke then told Sasuke about the curse seal's mature form and how it would erode his body if used for a long period of time. The four then left, but not before offering Sasuke an offer to come with them and if chooses to do so, to meet then in the forest at midnight outside Konoha in 2 days. Sasuke was stuck thinking about what he would do. 2 days later Sasuke had looked at his home of the Uchiha complex, the place he had lived in for 13 years, the place that held so many memories for him. Good and bad. Sasuke then picked up his bag and looked up at the full moon. He then looked at the clock. 11:30 p.m. it said. He had half an hour left. Sasuke then left, picking up his bag and then went to training ground 7. He looked at the grass and the flowing water of the nearby river. The place where he first became a shinobi of Konoha, was he really going to leave a place where he was seen as a hero, a place where people loved him, all for power? Yes he was. He needed to control the curse mark and then after that he would return to Konoha. He knows it's stupid, but there's no one else. Sasuke then went to the main gates and as he was about to leave a voice called to him. Sasuke-kun, please don't go, Sakura said. Sasuke turned and looked at her. Gomen nasai Sakura, but I need to do this, I need to kill my brother, he said. Sakura was astonished. Demo, Sasuke-kun, we can help you, just stay with us please, I'll go with you if you want, I love you too much to let you go like this, Sakura cried. Sasuke then shunshin behind her. Sakura gasped when she felt lips come in contact with her cheek. Arigato, Sakura-chan, but I need to do this alone, Yane, Sasuke said and then knocked her out. Sakura fell, but Sasuke caught her and rested her down on a nearby bench. Sasuke then jumped over the gate and landed quietly on the other side. He then ran to the edge of the forest where he met the four. So you ready to go? Sasuke asked. Sasuke nodded. Okay, but first we need to prepare you for your mature curse seal state. Here, Sasuke said as he took out a purple pill. This is a strong pill that releases your curse seal to its maximum potential. We will then keep you in this confined container, where you will be in a near-death state, so we need to keep you there until the time is right, Sasuke explained. Sasuke looked at the pill before taking it and then hesitantly put it in his mouth. He chewed it and then swallowed it down his throat. As soon as he did that Sasuke fell to the ground. Jirobo then put the near-death Sasuke into a large casket and carried him. The Sound Four then raced through the trees to Otogakure. I will not fail, I promise. Tsunade was in her office and before her stood Haruno Sakura, Nara Shikamaru and Namikaze Uzumaki Naruto. Naruto pondered on why Tsunade has asked him to come. Well, I can tell you three are wondering why you are here, Tsunade said. The three genin all nodded. Well, it's because I have heard that you three had done exceedingly well during this year's Chunin exams and therefore you have earned the title of Chunin, Tsunade said with a smile. Congratulations, and then she took out 3 Chunin vests from behind her desk and handed them to the 3 now Chunin. Wear it with pride, she said. Naruto looked at her. Can I get a different color? He asked. Tsunade looked at the person she saw as an Aoto or maybe a son. I think, what color do you want? She asked. Naruto smiled. Blue with black pockets and the Namikaze symbol on the back, he said, whispering the part about the Namikaze symbol, and the Namikaze symbol was a series of intricate lines that when joined together formed the face of the flash goddess. Tsunade nodded and took back the green vest. Anyway, on to other news. I have just received a notification from Sakura here that Uchiha Sasuke has fled Konohagakure to Otogakure in order to gain power from Orochimaru, she explained. Naruto and Shikamaru's eyes widened when they heard this and looked at Sakura. Sakura-ne-chan, is that true? He asked. Sakura teared up a bit before nodding. Naruto's eyes flashed red in anger. How could Sasuke leave everything behind all for power? Tsunade then interrupted the silence. Okay Sakura, you are obviously not in the state of mind to go on the mission to retrieve Sasuke, so therefore Naruto, Shikamaru, you two are to gather any amount of ninja you think are necessary to bring with you, she commanded. Hi, they replied and then left. Sakura sat on the ground and cried. Tsunade sighed. I know what you're going through, kiddo. It's tough when you find out that the person you had once had feeling for betrays you, she said. Sakura looked up with confusion on her tear-stained face. Jiraiya fought with all his heart, but in the end he couldn't bring back Orochimaru, she said as she remembered the day Jiraiya came back to village all battered and bloodied, but with no Orochimaru. Let's just hope Naruto can accomplish this mission and break the vicious cycle, Tsunade added. A few hours later a knock came at Tsunade's door. Tsunade looked up from the paperwork she had to do for making those 3 chunin rank. Come in, she said. The door opened and Naruto and Shikamaru entered. So who have you chosen? She asked. We have chosen Akimichi Choji, Inuzuka Kiba, Hyuga Neji and Rock Lee, Shikamaru answered. Naruto then cut in. Also we want you to send a message to the village of Tsunade, Naruto said. Tsunade raised her eyebrow. What for? She asked. Naruto grinned his foxy grin. Let's just say, it's a backup plan, tell them we request help from their 3 best genin, Naruto answered. Tsunade sighed at the amount of paperwork she'd be getting, but that's the price of Hokage. Tsunade nodded and then Naruto and Shikamaru left the office. Shikamaru and Naruto then walked out of the office and left to go gather the others. So who are your special backup plan recruits? Shikamaru asked. Naruto just told him, they'll come when they come. Shikamaru didn't press on finding it too troublesome to ask again. Konoha main gates Kiba and Akamaru, Lee, Choji eating chips Shikamaru, Neji and Naruto all stood at Konoha's main gates. Okay guys, listen up, my teammate and the one I had called best friend, my brother even, Uchiha Sasuke had fled the village in order to gain power from Orochimaru, Naruto said. The people present were shocked, minus Shikamaru, at the news. This is an S-ranked mission so we need to bring him back using everything we have. I know none of you knew Sasuke like I did, but he's a fellow Konoha shinobi and that's all the reason you need, Naruto said. The guys all nodded and then proceeded to leave, but then Sakura ran up to them. What is it? Naruto asked concerned for his sister. Sakura looked up with tears in her eyes. I tried to stop him, I really did, but Naruto just promised me this, she said. Naruto listened to what Sakura had to say. Please, just bring him home, she said. Naruto nodded. I will not fail, I promise, but I can't promise you that I won't have to hurt him if I need to bring him back, Naruto said. Sakura looked up at him and nodded. Do what you have to do, as long as you bring him back home alive, she said. Naruto gave his foxy grin and then Shikamaru rapidly explained the plan and then the 4 genin and 2 chunin sped off to retrieve their friend. Be careful, Naruto, Sakura whispered to the wind as it blew through her short pink locks. Konoha Forest Naruto and the others were in a single file formation, Kiba followed by Naruto, then Choji, Lee, Shikamaru and finally Neji. Kiba had quickly picked up on Sasuke's scent and the group was off. A few hours later, the group had encountered many traps, some were triple-layered traps that might have been triggered if Naruto and Shikamaru hadn't spotted them. The team of 6 had quickly caught up to the Sound 4 in a clearing. Who are you brats? Kimimaro asked. We're here for Sasuke, Naruto replied, killer intent coming off of him in waves. Jirobo stepped forward and then formed some hand signs. Doden. Tsuchi no Domu, Earth style. Earth Dome, Jirobo said and then a large sheet of earth tore up from the ground and encased the 6 genin. You guys go ahead, I'll catch up once I'm done with them, Jirobo said. The 3 others nodded and then with the casket that carried Sasuke, they jumped away into the trees. Shikamaru tried to come up with a plan as he observed the structural components of the dome. Kiba attempted to break down the dome with his Gatsuga, but it was no use, the wall was somehow regenerating itself. Shikamaru then noticed something. Kiba, use your Gatsuga again, Shikamaru said. I don't know what good it'll do, but alright, Kiba said. Akamaru then transformed into a replica of Kiba and the 2 Kibas jumped into the air and became the twin gray drills that were Gatsuga. The 2 then crashed into the walls. Shikamaru smiled, but then felt he was getting weaker. Neji, use your Byakugan, he said. Neji nodded and his Byakugan activated. Neji's eyes widened at what he saw. This dome is sucking out our chakra, he said, surprise evident in his voice. Shikamaru then called out to Jirobo. Hey, we surrender, if you let us out we'll give one of our own as a truce, Shikamaru said. Everyone gasped in surprise, Choji just ate faster to show his disapproval. Jirobo laughed from the outside of the dome. Nice offer, but I'll pass, the only time I will let you out is if I suck out all your chakra. Shikamaru-kun, how could you do that? It is most unyouthful to give up one of our own, Lee said. Shikamaru sighed as he told them to huddle up. Okay, the reason I did that was to pinpoint his location, because if you had noticed, which you obviously hadn't, when Kiba used his Gatsuga, some parts of the wall healed slower on the farthest side of wall away from, I believe, Jirobo was his name. Anyway, Choji will now get us out, he stated. How will he get us out? Neji asked. Naruto chuckled at Neji. Neji, the reason is because that Choji eats so much is not because he's hungry, it's to restore chakra. Haven't you noticed Choji doesn't look the least bit fatigued, Naruto explained. The others nodded in understanding. Do it, Choji, Naruto urged. Choji nodded and then performed his human boulder jutsu on the far side away from Jirobo. Jirobo was mortified when he saw his beloved dome of earth crumble into rubble. Okay, guys, go on ahead and get Sasuke, I'll handle him, Choji said. Shikamaru was about to object when Choji turned to him. Shikamaru, you've been a great friend and you've helped me through a lot of tough situations, but now it's my turn to help you. You and Naruto are Chunin, you guys can handle the rest, go now. Choji said. Naruto then grabbed Shikamaru's shoulder. He's right, Choji's not a helpless person anymore, and he's a shinobi, Naruto said, and then with one last look at Choji the guys jumped into the trees, leaving Choji to fight the fatass. Looks like I'll have some fun killing you, Jirobo said with an evil smile. Don't count your eggs before they hatch, Choji replied, and the battle begun. A while later, the Sound 4 looked back and noticed Jirobo still hadn't rejoined with them. What's taking the fatass so fucking long? Tsuyu yelled. Either the enemies got out or their chakra is taking longer to drain than anticipated, Sakin answered. Kimimaro just remained silent as he hopped through the trees. Then he stopped and surveyed the area. What's wrong, Kimimaro? Sakin asked. Kimimaro smiled and then pulled a hidden spider web in his hand. A large net then fell out of the bushes to reveal a net with Naruto and the others inside it. Looks like we got some pests, Kimimaro said. The people on the net then turned to smoke, showing they were Kagebunshins. Kimimaro then handed the casket to Sakin. Take it to Oto, I'll kill these other Gakus, he said. Sakin nodded and then he and Tsuyu jumped away. Kimimaro fired a net of spider silk at the group that had just jumped out of the bush, but Neji used his Juken to cut it down. Ah, a Hyuga, this will be fun, Kimimaro said with a maniacal smile. Neji scoffed. Guys, go ahead, I'll handle this one, Naruto helped Sasuke. I looked in the barrel and saw he was trapped in darkness. You are the only one who can help him. You, after all, have better eyes than mine, Neji said with a smile. Naruto nodded and then he, Lee, Kiba and Shikamaru raced after the other two. A few hours later it was night time and the two genin and two chunin continued after the Sound Nin in silence. Hey Naruto, why aren't we getting in on those two? I can smell them pretty well, they're only a few yards ahead of us, Kiba whispered. Naruto sighed. Because Kiba, it's night and we can't see very well in the dark, this could cause problems for us, so we'll have to wait till morning, Naruto explained. Kiba smiled. No wonder you made Chunin, Kiba said. Naruto grinned. Good news spreads fast now, doesn't it? Naruto asked. Lee nodded as they all jumped through the trees, nearing the border between Oto and Konoha. Morning. Okay guys, we're going to ambush those two and then take Sasuke's casket and take him back to Konoha, and then on the way pick up Neji and Choji, that is if they're still with us, Shikamaru said. They're alive, I just know it, negative thought are very unyouthful, so now we must let our youth shine through as we get Sasuke-kun back from those evil men, Lee said with fire in his eyes. Then they commenced Operation Get Sasuke. Kiba used Kagebunshin no jutsu and turned Orochimaru into a perfect copy of himself. The two Kibas then kicked Sakin in the back, making him drop the casket with Sasuke inside it. Naruto then quickly caught it and threw it to Lee. Shikamaru then held back Tsuyu with Kageme no jutsu, and Sakin had tackled Kiba and Orochimaru into a chasm below. Lee and Naruto then hurried away, but then a shadow appeared behind them and effortlessly took back the casket. The man landed on a tree branch. He had silver hair, pale skin, and wore the same garb as the other Sound 4 members. Kimimaro, Tsuyu whispered. Orochimaru-sama has become impatient, so I have come to take the vessel for you four are taking too long with the delivery, Kimimaro said in a monotone, but you could tell he was furious with the progress of the four. Kimimaro then turned and headed for Oto with Naruto and Lee following close behind. Kimimaro then landed in a clearing and rested the casket on the ground. Lee and Naruto got into their fighting stances. Kimimaro then turned to them and smirked. It is time for the vessel to awaken, he said. The casket's lid then popped open by an explosion of black and purple chakra. Sasuke climbed out and gave an evil laugh. "Sasuke," Naruto said, but Sasuke ignored the blonde and then jumped away in the direction of Otogaku. "Naruto, go after him, I'll handle this guy," Lee said. Naruto turned at Lee in the direction Sasuke went in and then nodded. "Okay, but be careful out there, bushy brows, this guy seems really strong," Naruto warned and then bounded off after Sasuke. Lee then got into his fighting stance and then rushed Kimimaro. Kimimaro was met with a kick to his stomach and skidded backwards. Kimimaro scratched his stomach. "That was a good kick, but not good enough," Kimimaro said as he held out his hands. The skin and muscle then pulled back to reveal the bones of the fingertips. Lee had to steel his stomach to resist the urge to vomit his lunch. Then the fingertip bones fired off like bullets at extreme speeds. Lee dodged the finger bullets, but was unprepared for the unexpected kick to his stomach and then flew back, the wind knocked out of him as he struggled to breathe. Once he got his breath back, he got up. "Nice kick, you really are strong," Lee said with a smile. "May I have the honor of knowing your name?" Lee asked. "My name is Kagaya Kimimaro, the last of my clan, who possess the Kekai Genkai to use our bone structure as weapons, as you have just witnessed. That is the Shikatsumuku Dead Bone Pulse bloodline," Kimimaro said. "What is your name?" he asked. Lee then took the nice guy pose. "I am Konohagakure's handsome devil, Rock Lee, the soon-to-be greatest taijutsu master in the world," Lee shouted. "Fear my flames of youth." He shouted. Kimimaro's sweat dropped at the youth part. He acts like he's having a midlife crisis, but he's not even at that age yet, Kimimaro thought, but then returned to focusing on the fight. Lee then rushed Kimimaro and then while running took out a chocolate treat and unwrapped it. "Guy-sensei gave this bonbon, saying it helps it enhance my abilities. Well, here I go," he thought and then popped it into his mouth. Lee then froze, his bowl hair cut covering his eyes in a shadow. Kimimaro raised his eyebrow in confusion. Kimimaro then walked forward cautiously and then stopped when Lee's head shot up. His eyes were half-lidded, he had a blush on his face and he was swaying from side to side like a drunken person. "Oi, you bone man, I'm gonna beat the shit out of you, then I'll make you eat that shit." So I beat it back out again, Lee slurred. Kimimaro's eyes widened and then he sweet-dropped. "The boy is drunk, but isn't he a bit underage for that?" Kimimaro thought to himself, but then drew his bone sword. Lee then rushed at god-fast speeds at Kimimaro. Kimimaro slashed his sword of bone down at Lee, but Lee did an unpredictable move of rolling between Kimimaro's legs. He then popped up behind the last Kagaya and pummeled him from behind by first starting with a punch to face followed by an uppercut to the chin, a kick to stomach, an axe kick to the head from above, and finally a rapid 14-hit punch combo to the chest followed by a kick to the stomach. Kimimaro was sent flying and was bruised from the hits. Kimimaro wiped the blood from his lip. "Looks like I'll have to get serious," Kimimaro said and then released the first stage of his Earth Curse seal. Kimimaro then picked up his bone sword and taunted with his right hand. "Come," he said. Lee blinked and then drunkenly rushed the bone man. A few hours later with Kiba was limping, clutching his stomach wound he had used to remove Ukin from his body and killed Ukin in the process while also carrying a wounded Akamaru. He was out of chakra from using his strongest technique, the Garoga double wolf fang, which changes he and Akamaru into a giant two-headed wolf, and couldn't fight back as he hid from the angry brother Sakin, who was really pissed at Kiba for killing his twin brother. Plus he was still in the second state of the curse seal. That made his hair turn longer and a darker gray, his skin turned red, teeth became fangs, nails, claws, and a large horn grew out from his forehead making him look like an Oni. Kiba then hid behind a tree and peeked and saw Sakin standing by the river looking for him. "Come out, Inu Tem, dog bastard, I just want to avenge my brother by killing you nice and slowly," Sakin called out. Kiba remained silent, breathing quietly. "Peekaboo," he heard a voice say in front of him. His eyes widened as he turned his head to come face to face with Sakin, who was still in his released form of the curse seal he bore. Sakin then took out a kunai and steadily walked towards the injured Inuzuka. Then all of a sudden a few kunai landed in front of Kiba. Kiba sniffed the air and smiled. "About time you got here," Kiba called out. Then Sakin was hit by a puppet in his chest, sending him flying into a tree. Kankuro then landed in front of Kiba, Karasu still on his shoulder, but there stood a new puppet, Kurore, Black Ant. Sakin got up, still pissed off. "Who are you?" he asked. Kankuro smirked. "We are," Kankuro said. With Shikamaru had managed to take control of Taiyuya's summons, the three giants that were all-powerful by using a flash bomb to light up the area and use Kojimane no Jutsu to take control of them and turn them against their original master. Taiyuya, realizing she was at a disadvantage with her summons fighting against her, had dispelled them and then released her second state curse seal form. Her transformed body looked like a demon banshee. Taiyuya's long red hair became a darker shade of red and grew longer. Her eyes became the usual black with yellow irises and her skin turned red as well. Finally she grew long curved horns from her head. Shikamaru had tried to kill her using his Kagebunshin no Jutsu, Shadow Neck Bind Jutsu, and tried to strangle her, but her will to resist proved much stronger than he had anticipated and he ran out of chakra. Taiyuya then kicked Shikamaru in the stomach and sent him flying into the trees, breaking his finger and a rib in the process. Taiyuya then picked up her flute to prepare the final blow, but then a huge gust of wind blew and there stood Temari in front of the injured Chunin. Temari looked behind her and smiled. "Looks like I came just in time, eh Shikamaru?" Temari said. Shikamaru smirked. "So you're the backup Naruto mentioned," Shikamaru said. He then chuckled. "Troublesome. Who are you?" Taiyuya asked. Temari looked back at her foe. "Konoha's reinforcements," she said. With Li's bonbon effect had worn off and he was now sober, so he longer had the unpredictable movements which provided an advantage for him earlier. Kimimaro was beating him now and Li watched in horror as the last Kagebunshin walked towards him, the bone sword ready to cut him in half. "You fought well, Rock Lee, but it looks like that whatever you had just eaten has worn off, so time for you to die," Kimimaro said and then brought his sword down. Lee closed his eyes as he awaited the incoming pain. The pain didn't come and then Lee opened his eyes and gasped. There was a wall of sand blocking the sword's strike. Lee looked to his left and his eyes widened even wider than they normally are. "Gaara-san," Lee said. Kimimaro stepped back and put back his spinal sword. "Who are you?" Kimimaro asked. Gaara looked at Kimimaro, his green eyes observing the Kagebunshin. "The Suna shinobi," Gaara replied. With Kiba, Kankuro sent Karasu and fired every single weapon at Saken. Saken had dodged them all, but was nicked on the neck by one the poison-covered kunai. The poison activated immediately and Saken fell to the ground, paralyzed. "What have you done to me?" he screamed. "I just put a paralysis poison in your system, but now you have to die," Kankuro said. Then using Karasu he knocked Saken up. Then Kurore's stomach opened up and Saken landed in it, the stomach of the puppet then locked back. Kankuro then detached Karasu and each body part then released a retractable blade from the ends of the parts. The parts then flew at Kurore and stabbed through the spaces in Kurore's body, stabbing Saken. Saken screamed in pain, rather loudly too, and the screaming ended. "Kurohige Kiki Apatsu, Black Secret Technique Machine One Shot," Kankuro said. "The show ends," he added and then put Karasu back together. He then helped up Kiba and then they jumped Thora the trees to meet up with Temari and Gaara. With Shikamaru, Taiyuya attempted to play her flute, but Temari had been using her Komadochi no Jutsu to repel the sound of her flute and also attack the Oto Nin. "Sugoi, this attack is both offensive and defensive, repelling an opponent's attacks while also sending counter-attacks of slicing winds," Shikamaru said. Temari then found it was time to end this. "Kuchios, Kurikiri Might summoning, quick beheading dance," Temari yelled and swung her fan. Then a sickle-holding weasel with only one eye appeared. The weasel then flew through the forest at quick speeds, creating a huge storm of wind. The winds leveled the entire area and Taiyuya was killed when a tree fell on her. "And that's all she wrote," Temari said as she closed her fan. She then helped Shikamaru up and they went to go meet Gaara. Back with Lee and Gaara, Kimimaro jumped away and got into a stance, his sword positioned parallel to his left arm. "Unagi no Mai, Dance of the Willow," he said. Kimimaro then disappeared in a blur of speed. Kimimaro performed some powerful slashes at Gaara, but his sand blocked them all. Kimimaro then tried to strike Lee, but the sand protected him too. Kimimaro then did the final move of the dance, a slash from above to the head. However, Lee thought he should return the favor to Gaara and then delivered a strong kick to Kimimaro's chest, sending the Oto Nin back. "This is getting difficult. Looks like I'll have to release my full power," he said. Gaara and Lee's eyes widened as they watched the black markings of the curse mark spread across Kimimaro's body. Kimimaro's skin turned a dark brown, his hair grew longer and became a very dark shade of gray. 6 spikes made entirely of bone then emerged from his back which looked oddly like elongated ribs. Then a long bone tail grew out from his tailbone of his spine. He then looked up at the two boys with the trademark yellow and black eyes of the released state of the curse seal. He looked like a fusion between a dinosaur and human. He then reached into his back and removed two bone swords. "Tsubaki no Mai, Dance of the Camellia," he said. Kimimaro then ran forward with unbelievable speed and slashed at Gaara and Lee while doing all sorts of flips, twists, tumbles and other acrobatic moves. Gaara's sand was having trouble keeping up. Kimimaro then jumped back and assumed a different stance. "Karamatsu no Mai, Dance of the Larch," Kimimaro said. He then put his swords back into his body and then bones started to grow from all over his body. Kimimaro then began to spin at high speeds, making him look like a gray and white top. Gaara then put up a cube of sand which had some opening to see Kimimaro. This opening is too small to notice with the naked eye. Kimimaro stopped spinning and Gaara released the cube. Gaara knew he had to end this thing soon and then he made a platform of sand for him and Lee to stand on. The sand then carried the two up high into the air out of Kimimaro's reach. Kimimaro watched from the ground as the two floated higher into the sky before they stopped. Kimimaro attempted to jump up after them, but felt the ground beneath him lose stability. He looked down and saw the entire earth turn to sand. Kimimaro took out his bone swords and tried to slash his way through, but the sand was too tough and Kimimaro was dragged underneath. Gaara then held out a hand and then made a fist. "Uki Subaku Soso, Giant Sand Burial," Gaara yelled. The sand below him then imploded on itself with a loud boom. The sand crushed Kimimaro inside. Gaara panted and then began to lower the cloud of sand. He had out everything into that attack, but then he felt a chakra spike. He then began to make the cloud of sand go back up. Lee watched in awe as a mass of spikes made entirely of bone sprouted up out of the ground. They were just out of the reach of the bone forest as the bones had stretched high into the air. Lee and Gaara were exhausted, but then their eye widened when Kimimaro appeared behind them. His entire left arm was a huge spiral sword of bone that intended to skewer the two. "This is my strongest technique, Soarabi no Mai, Dance of the Seedling Fern," Kimimaro said and then was about to stab them, but then he coughed up blood and his breathing became raspy. "Hey, looks like my disease has become my end after all," Kimimaro said with a chuckle and then coughed up more blood. "What disease?" Lee asked. "It's a disease born within the Kagaya clan. There is no cure for it, and when I was found by Orochimaru-sama and Kabuto-san they tried to nurse me back to health, but it was no use, so I tried to help Orochimaru-sama by assisting in bringing back the vessel," Kimimaro said and then with one final cough of blood he died. Gaara and Lee sighed as Kimimaro died and then the bone forest disappeared. Gaara then made the land stable enough to land on and then Temari, Kiba, Shikamaru, Kankuro walked up to them. "Hey, you two alright?" Kankuro asked. Gaara nodded and then he took out some healing supplies, but then paused. "What's wrong, Gaara?" Temari asked. "There's something in the bushes," he said pointing behind the group. Everyone turned and saw the bush rustle and then, Choji and Neji fell out of the foliage. "Neji, Choji," Shikamaru called out with a grin. Neji and Choji lifted their heads and smirked. "Hey guys," Choji said before he and Neji fainted from exhaustion. Kankuro and Shikamaru hurried over to them and healed their wounds. After a few minutes of rest, they went to go and find Naruto. They then headed to the trees. "Alright, we need to help Naruto in his fight with Sasuke," Kiba declared. "No," everyone else said. Kiba sweet-dropped when he heard that everyone was against him. "Why not? Just because Naruto's a chunin doesn't mean he should fight his battles alone," Kiba said. "It's not that, Kiba, it's because Naruto is the only one who can fight Sasuke," Shikamaru said. "Yay, Kiba-san, Naruto-kun is not so selfish, but I think he feels as if he's the only one who can fight Sasuke-kun," Lee said. "Don't doubt Naruto, he knows what he's doing," Gaara added and then reached outside the forest to find themselves in front of a flowing river that fell into a waterfall. On the left and right sides of the waterfall were giant stoats. On the left was Uchiha Madara and on the right was the Shadaime Hokage. Their eyes widened when they saw a figure standing on each statue, Naruto on the Shadaimes and Sasuke with his back to Naruto on Madara's. "Sasuke, where do you think you're going? Come back home with me," Naruto yelled. Sasuke paused in his walk and then turned to face him. Naruto gasped. Sasuke's left eye was completely black and had a yellow iris. "So it's you this time, Adobe," Sasuke said. Naruto glared as he remembered Sakura's words to him, his pupils becoming slitted in anger. Sasuke, don't you see what they're doing to you? Orochimaru only wants you for your body. He wants your Sharingan, Naruto yelled. Sasuke glared at Naruto with gritted teeth. Naruto, I'm only going so I can gain the power to control this mark on my neck. If I do that I will have the power to kill Itachi, and when I'm done with Orochimaru I'm coming back to Konoha, Sasuke yelled. Naruto's eyes widened before he glared at his best friend. Sasuke, why go to the hubby Tem, we can help you, Naruto cried. Shikamaru, Choji, Lee, Kiba and Neji, they all risked their lives for you and you're just going to walk away. Shut up, you Dobi, just go back home and leave me alone, Sasuke said and then turned away. He had only taken a few steps before he saw a shadow descend from above. He turned to see Naruto tackle him to the ground. Does Konoha mean nothing to you? Naruto said, holding Sasuke by the collar on the ground, his right fist poised to strike. Kuso, just leave me alone, Sasuke yelled. When Naruto heard that, he snapped and then punched Sasuke in the face. Sasuke looked back at Naruto, blood flowing from his burst lip. He then spit the blood in Naruto's face. You know we were interrupted last time, now we can fight without any distractions, Sasuke said and then grabbed Naruto by the collar. Naruto was hoisted up and then Sasuke gave an evil grin and then gave a strong punch to Naruto's stomach. Naruto coughed up blood and then flew into the river below. Sasuke looked at his hand and smiled. So this is the power of the curse mark, if I learn to control it how powerful will I be? Sasuke asked himself, but then winced in pain and his left eye became normal onyx again. The others were hiding in the bushes and gasped when they saw Naruto fall into the river. Sasuke's gotten stronger, Lee said. The others nodded and then returned to watching when they saw Naruto climb out of the water and stood on it. Naruto's learned water walking, I see, Gaara said. Wow, I want to learn that, Kiba said. Naruto glared at Sasuke and then ran up to Sasuke and then jumped up, but Sasuke intercepted him and kicked Naruto in the face. As Naruto fell, he made the trademark cross-shaped seal. Kagebunshin no jutsu, he yelled and then the clones came to life in a puff of smoke. The Narutos then joined together to form ladder when one jabbed a kunai into the face of Madara's statue. The clone ladder then swung upwards and Naruto kicked Sasuke in his face and then landed back on the statue. Did I wake you up? Naruto growled. Sasuke got up and wiped the blood off of his face. Yeah, I've been wide awake to what I want to do now, I want to defeat you Naruto, Sasuke yelled. Naruto gasped and then his eyes flashed red in anger. Sasuke, don't you have any dreams for the future? If you do we can accomplish them together back in Konoha, Naruto said. Look Naruto, I have no dreams in the future, Sasuke said. Naruto became silent. My dreams are rooted only in the past, he said quietly as he remembered the times before and during the Uchiha massacre. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed. The next part will be out soon.